The blood-soaked handkerchief slipped from Josephine Orwell's trembling fingers as she stumbled deeper into the woods. The bruises on her face still fresh from Thomas's latest fury, the last one she would ever endure. The spring of 1875 had turned the Colorado wilderness into a riot of wildflowers and new growth, but Josephine barely noticed the beauty surrounding her. 3 years of marriage to Thomas Orwell had taught her to see only danger and escape routes. At 23, the vibrant young woman who had once dreamed of adventure had withered into someone who flinched at sudden movements and kept her eyes downcast. She pushed through a tangle of underbrush, her calico dress catching on branches. The town of Silver Creek lay 5 miles behind her now, but she knew Thomas would come looking once he realized she was truly gone this time. The thought spurred her to move faster despite her exhaustion. The sun dipped lower as Josephine followed a narrow stream, hoping it would lead her to somewhere anywhere away from the saloon owner who had charmed her with his wealth and promises, only to reveal his true nature once the wedding ring was on her finger. When darkness began to fall, panic seized her. She had no shelter, no food, and only the clothes on her back. The small bundle she carried contained a change of clothes, her mother's locket, and the $37 she'd secretly saved over months of pocketing small amounts from the household money. A distant wolf's howl sent shivers down her spine. Josephine spotted a hollow beneath a fallen pine and crawled inside, pulling leaves and branches around her. As she curled into herself, tears flowed freely. She was free, but freedom had never felt so terrifying. Morning came with birdsong and dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. Josephine's body ached from the cold night and uncomfortable shelter. She washed her face in the stream, wincing as the cool water touched her bruised cheek and split lip. Her reflection showed a woman she barely recognized, honey-brown hair tangled and dirty, hazel eyes hollow with exhaustion. She followed the stream for hours, rationing the stale biscuits she'd brought. By midday, hunger gnawed at her stomach and fear clawed at her mind. Thomas would have discovered her absence by now. He would be coming. The sound of hoofbeats froze her in place. Heart pounding, Josephine scrambled up the nearest embankment and threw herself behind a thicket. Through the leaves, she watched as a rider approached the stream. Relief washed over her when she saw it wasn't Thomas. This man was taller, broader in the shoulders, with a weathered Stetson pulled low over his eyes. He dismounted with easy grace, leading his chestnut mare to drink. Josephine held her breath, praying he wouldn't notice her. She shifted slightly, and a twig snapped beneath her weight. The man's head jerked up, hand instantly moving to the revolver at his hip. "Who's there?" His voice was deep but not threatening. "I mean no harm, show yourself." Josephine remained motionless, weighing her options. He could be like Thomas or worse. But she was lost, hungry, and the wolf howls had grown closer last night. "I know someone's there," he called again. "I'm just passing through. Name's Rylan Gentry. I ranch about 10 miles north of here." Something in his steady voice gave her courage. Slowly, Josephine rose from her hiding place, hands trembling. The man Ryland inhaled sharply when he saw her face. His expression shifted from surprise to concern. "Madam, are you hurt? Do you need help?" Josephine couldn't speak. Now that she stood before him, she realized how vulnerable she truly was. Alone in the wilderness with a stranger. Thomas had always told her what happened to women who ventured alone. Was she trading one danger for another? "I won't hurt you," Ryland said, keeping his distance. He removed his hat, revealing dark auburn hair and kind green eyes in a sun-browned face. "Are you lost?" "No," she finally managed. "I'm not lost, I'm leaving." Understanding dawned in his eyes as he took in her bruised face. "Running from someone," Josephine nodded, unable to form the words. Ryland glanced around the forest. "It's not safe out here. Wolves, bears, and whoever did that to your face might be looking for you." "He is," Josephine whispered. Ryland's jaw tightened. "Your husband?" Another nod. "My ranch is a day's ride from here." "I can take you someplace safe, or to the next town if you prefer." He gestured to his horse. Your choice, madam, but I wouldn't leave anyone out here alone, especially not with night coming again. Josephine studied him. At perhaps 30, Rylan Gentry had laugh lines around his eyes and a steadiness that Thomas had never possessed. His clothes were practical worn denim, sturdy boots, and a simple cotton shirt, nothing like Thomas's flashy waistcoats and gold watch chains. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "Because it's right," he answered simply. "And because whoever did that to you shouldn't get the chance to do it again." Fear and hope battled within her. "If he finds me." "He won't," Ryland said with quiet confidence. He stepped forward slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal. "I'll be your freedom from him, I promise you that." Those words so simply spoken broke something inside Josephine. A sob escaped her lips. "I don't even know your name," Ryland said gently. Josephine Orwell." "Well, Miss Josephine, it'll be dark soon. We should get moving if we're going to find better shelter." She hesitated only a moment longer before nodding. "Thank you." Ryland helped her onto his horse, then mounted behind her, keeping a respectful distance. As they rode, Josephine felt both terror and relief warring within her. She had trusted a man once before, and it had nearly destroyed her. But the wilderness offered no sanctuary, and Thomas would never stop hunting her. "My husband," she said suddenly. "He owns the Silver Spur Saloon in Silver Creek. Thomas Orwell, he has friends in the sheriff's office." Ryland's voice came steady behind her. "Then we'll avoid Silver Creek. I know people in Riverdale, good people who won't ask questions." They rode in silence as the forest thinned and rolling pastureland appeared. In the distance, mountains rose purple against the sky. Josephine had never been this far from town before. Thomas had kept her close, controlled. "Are you hungry?" Rylan asked. "There's jerky in my saddlebag." The simple kindness nearly undid her. When was the last time someone had asked what she needed? As the sun began to set, they approached a small cabin nestled in a grove of aspens. "My line cabin," Rylan explained. "I use it when I'm checking the northern pastures." The cabin was spare but clean: a bed, table with 2 chairs, stone fireplace, and a chest for supplies. Rylan lit a lantern and started a fire while Josephine stood awkwardly by the door. "You take the bed," he said, pulling blankets from the chest. "I'll sleep by the fire." "I can't take your bed." "You can and you will," he replied firmly. "You've had a rough time of it, rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out what's next." Josephine sank onto the edge of the bed, exhaustion washing over her. "Why are you being so kind to a stranger?" Ryland paused in his work. "My sister was married to a man like yours, I suspect. She didn't make it out." His voice was flat, controlled. "I couldn't help her. Maybe I can help you." The simple honesty of his answer silenced her questions. When he handed her a plate of beans and jerky, she ate gratefully. Later, despite her fears, she fell into the deepest sleep she'd had in years. She woke to sunlight streaming through the cabin's single window. For a moment, panic seized her. Where was she? Then yesterday's events flooded back. Josephine sat up to find Rylan already awake, cooking something over the fire. "Morning," he said, nodding toward a basin of water. "Thought you might want to wash up." The cool water felt heavenly on her face. When she finished, Rylan handed her a plate of cornbread and fried salt pork. "Not fancy, but it'll keep you going." "It's wonderful," she said sincerely. After years of cooking elaborate meals for Thomas, only to have them thrown against the wall if they weren't perfect, simple food prepared by someone else, felt like luxury. "I need to check my cattle in the north pasture," Ryland said. "You're welcome to stay here until I return." "Should only be a few hours." Fear flickered across her face before she could hide it. "Or you could come along," he added. "Might be good for you to know the lay of the land." "I'd like that," Josephine admitted. "I don't want to be alone." They rode out after breakfast, Josephine once again seated in front of Rylan. The landscape opened before them: rolling hills dotted with wildflowers, stands of aspen and pine, and in the distance, snow-capped mountains. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "That it is. Been ranching this land for 8 years now. Started with just 20 head of cattle and worked my way up." "You live alone?" "Got a couple of hands who help out. Good men, they stay in the bunkhouse at the main ranch. They crested a hill and Josephine gasped. Below them stretched a valley where hundreds of cattle grazed, their red-brown bodies bright against the green grass. That's quite a herd, she said, pride tinged Ryland's voice. 500 head, not the biggest spread, but it's growing every year. They spent the morning checking cattle and mending a section of fence. Josephine insisted on helping, and Ryland showed her how to hold the wire while he hammered posts. Her soft hands weren't used to such work, but she welcomed the distraction. "You're a natural," he commented when she figured out how to twist the wire just right. "I'm a quick learner." It felt good to be praised for something other than her appearance or cooking. When they returned to the cabin, Ryland seemed hesitant. "We should talk about what comes next. My main ranch house is about 5 miles south. You'd be safer there, more people around." "Would that put you in danger? If Thomas comes looking," Ryland's expression hardened. "Let him come. My ranch, my rules." The conviction in his voice gave her courage. "Then I'll go with you." The main ranch house was larger than Josephine had expected, a sturdy 2-story structure of logs and stone with a wide porch wrapping around 3 sides. 2 men looked up from their work as Rylan and Josephine rode into the yard. "Boys," Ryland called, "this is Miss Josephine. She'll be staying with us for a while." The older man, gray-haired and weathered, touched his hat. "Madam, I'm Hank Miller, foreman around here when the boss is away." The younger man, barely out of his teens, nodded shyly. "Toby Jenkins, madam." Neither man commented on her bruised face, though she saw their eyes linger briefly before politely looking away. Inside, the house was simple but comfortable. A large stone fireplace dominated the main room, with well-worn leather chairs and a bearskin rug. Bookshelves lined one wall, surprising Josephine with their variety. Shakespeare sat alongside practical guides on animal husbandry and farming. "You read Shakespeare?" she asked, running her fingers along the spines. "Winter nights get long out here," Ryland replied with a small smile. "I may be a rancher, but I'm not uncultured," Josephine blushed. "I didn't mean I know you didn't. Thomas Orwell has a reputation. I doubt he's much for poetry and plays." "No," she agreed quietly. "He preferred cards and whiskey." Ryland showed her to a bedroom upstairs. "It was my mother's room when she visited. She passed last year." "I'm sorry. She had a good life." He lingered in the doorway. "There are clothes in the wardrobe. They might be old-fashioned, but they should fit until we can get you something else." That evening, Josephine joined the men for dinner. She'd changed into one of Mrs. Gentry's dresses, a simple blue cotton that needed taking in at the waist but otherwise fit well enough. She'd washed her hair and pinned it up, feeling almost human again. Hank had prepared a hearty stew, and the men ate with the appetite of those who worked hard all day. Josephine found herself hungrier than she'd been in months. At Thomas's table, she'd been too nervous to eat properly, always afraid of spilling something or using the wrong fork. "This is delicious," she told Hank, who beamed with pleasure. "Been cooking for this outfit for 5 years, he said proudly. "Someone has to keep these boys fed." After dinner, Ryland walked her to the porch. The setting sun turned the mountains to gold and pink. "Thank you," Josephine said softly, "for everything. You're safe here," he replied, "but we should discuss your situation. Thomas Orwell isn't a man to let things go. No, he isn't." "Do you have family you could go to?" Josephine shook her head. "My parents died 2 years ago." "There's no one else." "Then stay here as long as you need. We can say you're my cousin from back east if anyone asks." The generosity overwhelmed her. "I can't impose, it's not an imposition. This place could use a woman's touch and I could use the company." He cleared his throat. "That is, we all could." Josephine studied his profile in the fading light. Rylan Gentry was nothing like Thomas, not in looks, not in manner, not in spirit. Where Thomas had been all flash and charm concealing darkness, Rylan was solid, dependable, with nothing to hide. "I can cook," she offered. "And so, I could earn my keep." "You don't need to earn anything, but if it makes you feel better, we wouldn't turn down home cooking." The days fell into a pattern. Josephine took over the kitchen, preparing meals that had the cowboys praising her skills. She mended clothes, cleaned the house, and planted a small vegetable garden. Gradually, the bruises on her face faded and color returned to her cheeks. Ryland taught her to ride properly, not side saddle as Thomas had insisted, and showed her the boundaries of his land. Sometimes they would sit on the porch in the evenings, talking about books or watching thunderstorms roll across the valley. 2 weeks passed, then a month. Josephine began to breathe easier, to laugh more freely. The fear didn't disappear, but it receded like a tide pulling back from shore. Then came the day Toby galloped into the yard, his young face tight with worry. "Riders coming, boss. One of them looks like Thomas Orwell from Silver Creek." The name sent ice through Josephine's veins. Ryland's hand found hers, steadying, how many? 3 men, about 2 miles out. Ryland turned to Josephine. "Go upstairs, stay out of sight." "I won't hide," she said, lifting her chin. "This is my fight too." "Josephine, no, Ryland, I ran once, I won't spend my life running." Something like pride flickered in his eyes. "All right, but stay behind me." The 3 men rode into the yard 20 minutes later. Thomas at the front, flanked by 2 men Josephine recognized as regular patrons of the Silver Spur. Thomas had dressed for the occasion in his finest black suit, his silver watch chain gleaming in the sun. "Gentry," Thomas called, his voice falsely pleasant. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Ryland stood on the porch, arms crossed. Hank and Toby positioned themselves on either side, rifles in hand but pointed at the ground. "Don't see anything of yours here, Orwell." Thomas's handsome face hardened. "My wife. She's been missing for over a month, and I heard she was seen with you." "Any woman staying here is under my protection," Ryland replied evenly. "You'd best turn around." Thomas's eyes found Josephine standing in the doorway. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "There you are, darling, you had me worried sick. Come on now, time to go home." Josephine stepped forward, her heart hammering but her voice steady. "I am home, Thomas." "Don't be ridiculous," he snapped, charm evaporating. "You're my wife." "A wife you beat and terrorized," Ryland cut in. "She's not going anywhere with you." Thomas's face flushed with anger. "This is none of your business, Gentry. The law's on my side. A husband has rights. Not on my land he doesn't." Thomas dismounted, his hand moving to his gun. "I'm not leaving without her." "Yes, you are," Ryland said quietly, "one way or another." The tension stretched between them like a bowstring pulled too tight. Josephine held her breath, terrified of what might happen next. Then Thomas laughed, a cold sound that sent shivers down her spine. "I see how it is. You're welcome to my leftovers, Gentry, but know this, she'll run from you too once she's taken what she wants." He turned to Josephine. "You think he wants you? Damaged goods?" "That's enough," Ryland growled. "I'll go to the sheriff," Thomas threatened. "File kidnapping charges." "You do that," Ryland replied. "And I'll tell everyone how you treat women. Might affect business at your fine establishment." For a moment, Josephine thought Thomas might draw his gun despite being outnumbered. Instead, he spat on the ground. "She's not worth the bullet." He mounted his horse and fixed Josephine with a final, venomous glare. "You'll regret this, both of you." They watched in silence as the 3 men rode away. Only when they disappeared over the ridge did Josephine release the breath she'd been holding. Her legs trembled so badly she had to sit on the porch steps. Ryland knelt beside her. "Are you all right? He'll be back," she whispered. "Or he'll send someone. He never lets go of what he considers his." "Let him try," Ryland said fiercely. "This is my land. You're under my protection now." That night, Josephine couldn't sleep. The confrontation had brought all her fears rushing back. What if Thomas returned with more men? What if he went to the sheriff with false accusations? What if someone got hurt because of her? She slipped downstairs in her nightgown and shawl, needing air. To her surprise, Ryland sat on the porch, a rifle across his knees. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked as she joined him. "No, I keep thinking about what Thomas might do next. I've sent word to some friends in Riverdale. The sheriff there owes me a favor. Thomas Orwell won't find it easy to cause trouble." Josephine hugged her shawl tighter. "I've brought danger to your door. I should leave." Is that what you want? No, she admitted, but I don't want anyone hurt because of me. Ryland set the rifle aside and turned to face her. In the moonlight, his expression was earnest. Josephine, when I found you in those woods, you were running for your life. I promised you freedom, and I meant it. You've already done so much, let me finish, he said gently. These past weeks, having you here. It's brought something to this place I didn't know was missing. I don't want you to go. He paused, seeming to search for words. Unless you want to, of course. The vulnerability in his voice touched something deep within her. I don't want to go, she whispered. Ryland's hand found hers in the darkness. Then stay. Not because you need protection, but because I care for you, more than I should, perhaps. Josephine's heart raced. She had promised herself never to trust a man again, yet here she was, her hand in Ryland's, feeling safer than she had in years. I care for you too, she admitted, but I'm still married. There are lawyers in Denver who can help with that. Marriage shouldn't be a prison. Hope fluttered in her chest like a bird testing its wings. Do you really think it's possible? I know it is. His fingers tightened around hers. I won't rush you, Josephine. You've been through hell. Take all the time you need, but know that when you're ready, I'll be here. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars wheel across the sky. For the first time since she'd fled into the woods, Josephine felt not just safe, but hopeful. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Hank returned from town with the weekly supplies and a startling report. Thomas Orwell was arrested last night, he announced over breakfast. Killed a man in a card game. Sheriff caught him trying to flee town. Josephine's fork clattered to her plate. Killed someone, shot him right in the saloon. Witnesses say the man accused him of cheating. Hank shook his head. They're holding him for the circuit judge. Word is he'll hang. The news should have brought relief, but instead, Josephine felt numb. Thomas had been her nightmare for so long. The idea that he might be gone forever seemed impossible to grasp. Ryland found her later by the creek that ran behind the house. Are you all right? I don't know what I feel, she confessed. Relief, certainly, but also strange, like I've been running from a storm that suddenly disappeared. It'll take time to accept it's really over. Is it, though? Even if Thomas is gone, I'm still his wife, still bound to him. Ryland sat beside her on a fallen log. I spoke with Hank about that. He says with Thomas facing hanging, a divorce would be straightforward. No one would contest it. Hope and fear warred within her. And then what? Where do I go? What do I do? You could stay, Ryland said simply. Here, with me. Josephine looked up, searching his face. As what? As whatever you want to be, my housekeeper, if that's all you want, my friend. He paused, gathering courage. Or when you're ready, perhaps something more. Rylan, I'm not Thomas, he said quickly. I won't rush you or pressure you, but I need you to know how I feel. These past weeks, I've fallen in love with you, Josephine. Your strength, your kindness, the way you face each day despite everything you've been through. Tears filled her eyes. I'm broken, Rylan. No, wounded maybe, but healing. He took her hands in his. Let me help you heal. Let me show you what love is supposed to be. The circuit judge arrived 3 weeks later. Thomas Orwell was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to hang. Josephine attended the trial, facing her husband one last time. He glared at her with hatred, but she no longer flinched under his gaze. The divorce proceedings were indeed straightforward. Given the circumstances, no one questioned Josephine's right to freedom from a condemned man. By autumn, she was legally Josephine Davis again, taking back her maiden name. Winter came to the Colorado mountains, bringing snow and long evenings by the fire. Ryland kept his word, never pushing for more than Josephine was ready to give. They talked, read together, played chess. Sometimes their hands would touch, and something warm would bloom between them. Christmas Eve found them decorating a small pine tree Ryland had cut from the north pasture. Hank and Toby had gone to town for the holiday, leaving them alone. I have something for you, Ryland said when they finished. He handed her a small package wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages crisp and empty. For your new beginning, he explained. You mentioned wanting to write again. Tears pricked her eyes. Thomas had mocked her love of writing, calling it a useless pastime. "It's perfect. There's something else." Ryland seemed suddenly nervous, running a hand through his hair. "You don't have to answer now. In fact, maybe it's too soon, but I wanted you to know." "Know what?" He took a deep breath. "That I love you. That I want to build a life with you if you'll have me. Not as your protector or savior, but as your partner." Josephine's heart swelled. Over the months, her feelings for Ryland had deepened into something she'd almost been afraid to name. "It's not too soon," she whispered. "No." She shook her head, stepping closer. "I love you too, Ryland. You gave me freedom when I needed it most. But now I'm choosing to stay not because I need protection, but because I want to be with you." His smile lit his entire face. Slowly, giving her time to pull away, he leaned down and kissed her. Unlike Thomas's demanding kisses, Ryland's was gentle, questioning, inviting her to participate rather than submit. When they parted, Josephine felt as though something long broken inside her had finally begun to mend. Spring arrived with new calves and wildflowers dotting the pastures. On a warm May morning, Josephine Orwell became Josephine Gentry in a small ceremony in Riverdale. Hank was Ryland's best man, and the sheriff's wife stood up with Josephine. Their first year together brought challenges, nightmares that gradually became less frequent, moments when Josephine would flinch at her raised voice or sudden movement. But Ryland's patience never wavered, and Josephine's strength grew with each passing day. By their second anniversary, Josephine was helping manage the ranch accounts, her head for numbers proving invaluable as they expanded their operation. Her vegetable garden flourished, and she began selling preserves and baked goods in town. People who had once whispered about poor Mrs. Orwell now spoke with respect of Mrs. Gentry's business acumen. In the summer of 1879, their first child was born, a daughter they named Eleanor, after Ryland's mother. Holding her daughter in her arms, Josephine marveled at how far she had come from that terrified woman hiding in the woods. "She's perfect," Ryland whispered, sitting on the edge of their bed, his finger caught in his daughter's tiny grip. "She is," Josephine agreed. "And so is this life we've built." On Eleanor's first birthday, they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. Their daughter slept peacefully in Josephine's arms while Ryland's arm encircled them both. "Do you ever think about that day in the woods?" Josephine asked. "When you found me?" "Often," Ryland admitted. "I thank God I decided to check that northern fence line that day. You promised me freedom." "And did I keep my promise?" Josephine looked at their sleeping daughter, then at the home they had built together. "You did more than that," she said softly. "You showed me that freedom isn't just the absence of chains, it's the presence of love." As twilight deepened into night, they remained on the porch, talking of the future of the son or daughter who might join them next year, of the orchard they planned to plant, of dreams that no longer seemed impossible. When stars appeared in the darkening sky, Josephine leaned her head against Ryland's shoulder, content in the knowledge that the path that had begun in fear now led toward a horizon bright with promise.